Well, there were reports from the US saying that he had invited other members of the family to this event at St Paul's tomorrow, and that the report seemed to suggest that no one had accepted that invitation. So, I mean, certainly William won't be rushing to see his brother. The relations between them are so poor now that they're not going to be reunited anytime soon, certainly not on this trip. It's been known by Prince Harry that he's for some time that he's been coming over for the Invictus Games, the 10th anniversary service that's being held in St Paul's on Wednesday. He arrived today, but his representative let it be known that while Harry did want to see the King unfortunately didn't have time in his diary to see his younger son. So this is the first confirmation we've had that Harry ultimately has been snubbed. In February, he gave an interview, a huge high-profile interview with an American network, saying that he hinted that there would be a reunifying effect, because he was talking about when people had illness within the family and how that happened. He talked about trips that were coming up. He said every time he comes to the UK, he definitely wanted to see his family. He loved his family. And yet here he is, and something hasn't connected. He hasn't managed to figure it out in time, given enough advance warning, or the King's, now he's started his public facing duties again, and just simply doesn't have the time in perhaps a short window that Harry's here in which to see him. We talk about people reading too much into it, because obviously with the royal family and with the monarch, they do have such a regimented diary that it's not quite, popping in to see anybody else popping in to see their father. Having said that, he is the King. If you wanted to see him for even 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you'd think that he might be able to make the time. So it is significant, I think, in a way, that even though Harry is here for, one must assume, at least over 24 hours, given that his service at St Paul's is late tomorrow, that there should be chance for Charles to see him. Having said that, Charles is still undergoing treatment. He's back on public facing duties, but he's not completely back to full bill of health just yet. So there will be, there's that going on as well. He's got his constitutional duties. He met the Prime Minister of Fiji today at Buckingham Palace. He'll be hosting a garden party tomorrow at the palace. So there is a lot going on for, a 75-year-old man who's still undergoing cancer treatment, on top of all the other things that he's got to deal with. So perhaps we should cut Charles some slack on that front. I mean, he'll be looking at assessing all the things going forwards as well that perhaps he hasn't been able to address just yet. His first visit to a Commonwealth realm, which still is yet to take place. There's talk of a trip to Australia in the autumn. So there is a lot in the intro for the King. But one might hope that if there is to be a kind of a reunion with Harry, then now would be a good time to do it. So I think it is, it is a moment in which we are seeing the royal family shift and change, and Charles is definitely showing where his priorities lie, perhaps. Well, there were reports from the US saying that he had invited other members of the family to this event at St Paul's tomorrow, and that the report seemed to suggest that no one had accepted that invitation. So, I mean, certainly William won't be rushing to see his brother. The relations between them are so poor now that they're not going to be reunited anytime soon, certainly not on this trip. We know that Harry's been friendly with his cousins, Princess Eugenie in particular. So whether she might spend time to see Harry, we'll wait and see. But I think it's certainly his event, isn't it, Invictus? And you can't take away from the fact that this is his really successful project that's been going for 10 years now, and should be celebrated. And perhaps other members of the royal family, it's not necessarily that they're there. And he's going to then join up with Meghan. He's here on his own without the children or his wife. And then he's going to join up with Meghan, and they've got a trip planned for Nigeria. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there and how they promote their work there.
Africa's in my heart. Africa's in my soul. I first went there when I was 12, 13 years old. And after so many years, I wanted to give back to it because it had given me so much. The vast open space, the cultures, the communities, the people, the wildlife, just the freedom was a huge piece of why I loved Africa so much. And we call it Sentebale. In Sesotho, the local language, it means forget me not. And it's really focused on ensuring that the younger generation are quite literally not forgotten. Both Princeso's mother and my mother had a strong focus on HIV and AIDS, but also of the younger generation, because it's their futures that are being stolen from them. And at the heart of Sentebale, what we've always believed is that every single young person should have a chance at a better future.
Yeah, well, I was with Prince Harry in Colorado in 2013 when he visited the Warrior Games, which was a US project to create a kind of Paralympic-style competition for people, wounded servicemen and women, particularly people who come back from Afghanistan and needed a focus in their lives. And he said, this is brilliant. You know, he was so enthralled by the whole thing, thought it was fantastic. And he said, I'm going to take this home and do this at home. And he did. But he's made it really, truly international. So fair play to him. He's had 10 years where it's kind of every other year there's a big competition. The British government has actually ring-fenced £26 million in the recent budget to promote a bid, which, if successful, will see the Games held in Birmingham in 2027. The outcome of that will be discovered in July, so it will either be Washington or Birmingham. So it is a kind of a huge event that he's undertaken, and I think is unanimously praised by people close to the royal family and others.